The families of the 101 hostages being held by Hamas have been stuck in limbo as the world grinds on, with no information, just hope that their loved ones are still alive. My next guest, Yifat Zailer, wishes good night to her nephews, 5-year-old Ariel and 20-month-old Kafir in Gaza every single night as she tucks her own small children into bed in Tel Aviv. The boys are believed to be the youngest hostages still held by Hamas, 2 of her 4 family members, who have been captive now for the last 366 days and counting. Joining us now, Yifat Zailer, whose relatives are still being held hostage by Hamas. The images of those boys is heartbreaking. How are you? How are you dealing with this?
I don't think there are words in the English language to describe how I feel, how my family feels after a year. This long, gruesome, horrible year.
What's the latest information you have on them?
Last November, in the last ceasefire, in the last hostage deal, my cousin Shiri and the 2 boys, Ariel and Kfir, didn't return from Gaza. Hamas issued a notice that they're gone, that they're dead. The day after, they released a video of Yarden, their father, saying that to the camera. They released it to Telegram. We received it through social media. Watching him, heartbroken, saying it to the camera. Since then, we haven't received any confirmation about that. The intelligence here and all the intelligence agencies that are working day and night to retrieve information of the hostages, they can't confirm if my cousin and the 2 boys are gone. We are in this horrible situation of not knowing. And as the days went by and holding on to hope is really hard. And I wish this all will be over soon and they will be released and returned to us.
Do you feel like you're being heard by your government?
No. I think fear, anger, and revenge are what's leading my government into making their decisions. I think the people in Israel, the majority of the people in Israel, want to see the hostages home. There's no price for human life that were taken from us on October 7. We understand that another deal, hostage deal, is the best way to save their lives. And I think my government doesn't believe that.
Would you want another hostage deal if it was a permanent ceasefire and Hamas still existed? Because that's why Benjamin Netanyahu says he won't take it.
It's a very hard question. I was raised in a very peaceful family. I was raised to respect whomever is different from me, to respect all narratives, to respect all nationalities. We believed in a 2-state solution our entire lives. My cousin believed that as well. Her husband believed that as well. And then October 7th happened. And something broke inside of me. I feel that Hamas stole the narrative of the Palestinians, using the narrative of the Palestinians and their will for a country of their own. They're disguising themselves. They are I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Every day I'm afraid. I was afraid as a child when buses exploded in the streets, but I always silenced those voices, and I said there are people like me on the other side who just want to live and exist peacefully. Last year, we thought my aunt and uncle were taken as well as hostages. For 2 weeks, we believed that Shiri's parents were taken as well. But eventually we found out they were murdered in their home in Kibbutz Nir Oz. It took 2 weeks to find any remains of them. I don't think that a ceasefire should be one-sided. I think Hamas should be held responsible and accountable for what happened. I heard your previous guest talking about Benjamin Netanyahu, about Biden, and really not saying any word about the responsibility of Yihya Sinwar, about the situation, about what happened on October 7th and what happens ever since then. I think we should separate that Hamas from the Palestinian cause. I'm heartbroken. We didn't deserve this. Ariel and Kfira are children with no political point of view. The hostage situation should not be a political issue. It's a humanitarian crime committed against us. We just wanted to coexist. And they didn't care. They took whomever they saw. My cousin was in her pajamas, holding her 9-month-old baby and her 4-year-old son. Is this how you free Palestine? I don't know what's true anymore. This kind of violence, I'm not joyous to see any child being hurt in a war. I'm heartbroken. But tell me, does anyone on the other side know about Kfir and Ariel? Where are they? In the pro-Palestinian propagandas in Europe and in the US. Does anyone ask anything about what the 101 hostages? Sinwar knows that if you release all the hostages today, the war will be over. He knows that. My family is being held as a pawn in this very sick game that I have no control of. I think all people deserve right leaders.
Yifat, I don't want to torture you anymore with this interview. You are in such an emotional state, rightfully so, and my heart goes out to you. And I thank you for coming on and speaking your truth and telling us about the pain that your family is in on this terrible anniversary. Day of Remembrance. We shouldn't even call it an anniversary. Yifat Zailer, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.